How to explain anxiety to someone who doesn't have it. If you've never experienced anxiety, it can be difficult to understand what it is and how it affects people. Anxiety is more than just feeling stressed or worried. It's a disorder that can make everyday activities feel impossible. Here are a few ways to explain anxiety to someone who doesn't have it. Step 1. Describe what anxiety is. Anxiety is a common emotional response that can affect all kinds of people, from the average Joe to elite athletes. It occurs when someone feels stressed or overwhelmed by a particular situation. At its root, it can be caused by a variety of factors, including fear, stress, and even trauma. But understanding what it is can be difficult if you've never experienced it yourself. When trying to explain to someone who doesn't understand it, there are a few key things to keep in mind. First of all, it's important to describe the physical symptoms of anxiety, such as rapid breathing and increased heart rate, so that your listener has some idea of what you're feeling. Additionally, you should focus on how it impacts your day-to-day life and how it makes you feel. By communicating these emotional reactions honestly and openly, you are better able to connect with the person you are speaking with and help them to better understand what it's like living with it. In short, when learning how to talk about anxiety effectively, it's important not only to communicate the facts about this condition, but also to share your own experience and personal feelings about this often misunderstood mental health issue. Step 2. Explain how anxiety affects people's lives. Anxiety can be a difficult concept to explain to someone who doesn't experience it. After all, how can you describe something that's largely invisible and internal? However, it's important to try to communicate what it feels like because it can have a significant impact on people's lives. For many people, it is a constant presence, affecting how they interact with the world and make decisions. It can make simple tasks feel overwhelming, and it can lead to avoidance behaviors. In severe cases, anxiety can be completely debilitating, preventing people from living normal lives. So when you're trying to explain it to someone who doesn't have it, try to paint a picture of what it's like to live with this condition. You can say things like, "Anxiety makes me feel nervous, on edge, and constantly overwhelmed. Since I started experiencing anxiety, it's been difficult to do things like socializing or go to work. Sometimes my anxiety is so intense that it keeps me from leaving the house. I have to plan out every minute of my day to cope with it. Anxiety has helped me learn how to manage my stress and better care for myself. Even though it's still challenging, I'm getting better each day." Describe how it feels to be constantly on edge, or how it affects your ability to function in everyday life. By giving them a glimpse into your experience, you may help them to better understand and support you. Step 3. Offer tips for explaining anxiety to someone who doesn't have it. When it comes to learning how to explain anxiety to someone who doesn't have it, there are a few key tips that can be helpful. The first is to avoid using technical terms that may be unfamiliar to the listener. Instead, try to stick with clear, concise language and concrete examples that are easy for anyone to understand. Secondly, you should always focus on sharing your own experiences of anxiety rather than trying to speak for everyone who has this condition. You can say something like, "Anxiety is different for everyone, so it's important to remember that we all experience and express it in our own way. For me, my anxiety manifests as constant worry and a sense of dread. I never feel fully at ease or relaxed." Try to be patient with the person you are speaking with, as it may take some time for them to fully understand what anxiety is and how it impacts your life. This will help the person you're speaking with to see things from your perspective and gain a better understanding of what it's like to live with anxiety every day. Finally, it's important to remember that everyone has different triggers and symptoms, so there is no one right way of explaining anxiety or answering questions about it. In other words, don't be afraid to get creative or personal when communicating about this important topic. Step 4. Summarize what you've learned about anxiety and how it can impact people's lives. Anxiety is a normal emotion that everyone experiences at some point in their lives. However, for some people, it can become so overwhelming that it interferes with their ability to live a normal life. There are many different types of anxiety disorders, each with its own symptoms and treatment options. But in general, people with anxiety disorders tend to experience excessive fear, worry, and stress. They may also have physical symptoms such as a racing heart, sweating, and difficulty breathing. If you're trying to explain anxiety to someone who doesn't have it, it's important to remember that everyone experiences it differently. Some people may only feel anxious in certain situations, while others may feel anxious all the time. And for some people, anxiety can be so debilitating that it prevents them from doing everyday activities like going to work or school. If you're struggling to explain anxiety to someone who doesn't have it, the best thing you can do is try to educate them about what it's like to live with an anxiety disorder. There are many resources available online and in libraries that can help you do this, and if you know someone with an anxiety disorder, consider asking them to talk about their experiences. By doing this, you'll help the person you're talking to gain a better understanding of what it's like to live with anxiety. Disclaimer: The content in this blog post is meant to be used for informational purposes only. The content in this blog post should not be used as a substitute for official medical advice from a licensed professional. If you need help with anxiety, please reach out to a licensed professional who can help you. Conclusion. Anxiety is a complex and nuanced condition that can affect people in many different ways. If you're trying to explain it to someone who doesn't have it, the key is to be patient, understanding, and non-technical in your approach. This will help the person you're speaking with gain a better understanding of what it's like to live with it, and may even help them develop more compassion and empathy for people who struggle with this condition.